Yep. Yep. 100%. All right, let's move on. The next question, you touched on Gonzaga a little bit. My biggest question with this team this season, they're so talented, but can a team that is built around two players that are at their best when they are playing the five win a national title in the modern era of basketball when neither of those guys are kind of like the big physical defensive presences that you would expect out of like a Big Ten five? And I'm referring to specifically Drew Timme and Chet Holmgren. Fanta, I saw you rubbing your hands. Can we go to him first, T.O.? I think
go to him.
He's got to take. All right, let's go. The clock is going. The clock. Look, there you go, Fanta. The clock is running.
It's supposed to go 1, 2, 3, not 1, 2 back to 1. You ruined that whole last one.
Here's my hot take. My hot take is I think one of the biggest keys to this Gonzaga team is actually Anton Watson, because I think he's a real X factor type of player. He's a guy who was a top 50 recruit and has kind of been waiting here to fully blossom. Keep an eye on him. But to answer your pressing question of Holmgren and Timme and how does that dynamic work, we have to see it take place. I mean, we have to see what this looks like because Timme is slow-footed. I mean, he's not a fast player, and they play around him. Can they play around two guys that are very like-minded in what they do and how they go about it? I don't know about that. I wonder if Mark Few gets experimental. Could we see a world where they're playing together at the same time? And how much do we see that happen? I don't know if Gonzaga, like they're viewed as the best team and the best program in college basketball. But I don't know if a team with two players that are doing what Timme and Holmgren do with similar things, similar types of roles, I'm not sure if that is far and away the best formula to be a national champion. I think that last year's team to me was better equipped to win a national championship and ran into an absolute buzzsaw at the end of the season than Baylor. I would say that this team has some things to solve. They bring in more talent. Mark Few has made some real quality additions, so make no mistake about it. Like, do I expect Andrew Nembhard to be a guy who's leading that backcourt charge, and he's got assistance? There's no doubt about it with that Iowa State transfer, Rasir Bolden, who's a bucket getter as well. I think Gonzaga is a great basketball team, but I don't know if the Holmgren-Timme dynamic lends itself for them to be the national champion in this sport this year. I have my doubts on this working as well as people might think it will work.
I'm in a little bit of a disagreement with Fanta on this one because I think Chet Holmgren is more of a 3 than he is a 4 or a 5. He's somebody who thrives on the perimeter with his ability to step out and hit shots. He's somebody who's better when he's cutting towards the basket. He's not going to be somebody who gets the ball in a standstill position and then find a way to do things. He is most lauded because of his shot blocking ability. I think that's elite. Everybody here is in agreement with that. But he's also so athletic and so fast that he's going to have some of these block shots where he's just swooping over on help side. That's where he's most efficient. Timme is slow-footed, sure. Put Timme on the 5, put Holmgren on the 4, and let Holmgren kind of roam the paint and roam help side, and then you're going to get a lot of his major benefits defensively for Holmgren. But I think Holmgren, offensively, he's so skilled with the basketball, especially on the perimeter, handling it, passing it, things like that. I think it's going to work because their strengths kind of fit. Like Drew Timme is a clinician in the post with his footwork. He is a clinician when he gets it at the high post and been able to, get his shoulder on guys' hips and then finish that way. He's not overly athletic, but Chet Holmgren is. I think that it's going to work because the skill sets are there for them to work, with Holmgren able to shoot the 3 and with Holmgren able to be more of a cutter than necessarily a dunker spot guy because he only weighs like 170 pounds. So I think the fact that he has to function so far away from the basket and Timme does his best work at the elbow or on the block, I think that's going to help that dynamic a lot more. Plus, Gonzaga's got players all around them as well.
Yeah, and I don't think the issue is going to be on the offensive end of the floor. They're going to be able to score. I have no doubt about that. And T.O., you're 100% right about the dynamic with Timme and Chet. Like I don't know how you stop them offensively. Mm-mm. I'm worried about how they get stops.
See, what worries you about that? Because to me, like when I watch Holmgren play,
there's no physicality in their front court, right? Like I think that you can kind of play a little bit of bully ball with Timme and a little bit of bully ball with Holmgren, and we saw what can kind of happen when you have guys that are more athletic, that can space them out, and that can kind of keep them from getting the position that you want them to be able to get when they played Baylor last year. Now, that said, Baylor was really the only team that had the ability to do that to them. And I've already told you guys what I think about last year's Baylor program. So maybe I'm just kind of like picking nits and trying to find warts on a team that's awesome. But my concern is on the defensive end of the floor.
Sorry, last thing, but Timme, like if he just squares up and puts his chest on guys, if they're trying to score over top, that's when Holmgren's going to come in.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
He's not going to be I'm guarding the ball blocking shots because he is going to be put in the paint. Yeah, but if he's able to come, like if he's in the opposite corner or they manufacture some defensive schemes to where he's in that low spot on help, man, he's going to be an unbelievable shot blocker.
Yeah, we talked about Herb Jones playing kind of that like free safety help side defense, put him on a non-shooter, just let him kind of roam kind of defense. I would expect to see Holmgren kind of do a lot of that. And I don't think he's going to get exposed in the WCC. I just don't think there are enough good teams, but it will be interesting to see how that ends up working. I mean, they get Texas in like the second weekend of the season, something like that.
Yeah. First weekend of the season.
Yeah.
First weekend of the season. And I actually think that that's a situation where Texas's backcourt, as much as Gonzaga's loaded up, we still got to give our due credit to Jalen Suggs and everything that he meant to Gonzaga. I mean, early in the season, if you remember what they did to Kansas.
No, you're right. The only thing that I will say is this, Fanta. Nolan Hickman is going to be really, really good. He's not going to be Jalen Suggs good because there's very few people that end up being Jalen Suggs good at the college level. But he's going to be really good. Andrew Nembhard is back. Rasir Bolton is back. I'm not yes, they lost Jalen Suggs. They lost Corey Kispert. I'm not worried about that. I think their guards are going to be absolute studs. So
yeah, I think it's a great debate. Like when I look at Gonzaga now, every year I'm treating them as, do I think they could win the national championship? Mm-hmm. Like that's how I'm. So we're not trying to talk them down. If folks are upset at us criticizing, well, I think people will be. I think Chet Holmgren's going to be a talented player, and I agree with T.O. Offensively, Holmgren and Timme do different things. I really should clarify. The defensive end of the floor is where I'm most intrigued to see, because I think you could be more physical than Holmgren. And I'm curious to see how that affects the game in terms of backside blocks. And like you said, him being able to fly in. We'll see. I think it's a really interesting dynamic between those two players, Timme and Holmgren.
Yeah, when we're trying to – when our weakness is like, yeah, we don't know if this ability to actually stop people is necessarily going to work, that kind of tells you how good we think this team is going to end up being. All right, last one we got, and then we're going to get out of here.